Hello, and welcome to the 157th episode of Movie and TV Talk. On this episode, I am going to be giving my thoughts on and discussing the movie Return to Silent Hill. Let's get into this. This movie certainly is something. I'm not even really that sure I can describe the plot, but I guess I'm going to try. This movie tries its best to adapt the story from Silent Hill 2, which is a game that I've not played. There's this guy named James who falls in love with this girl named Mary. What the movie does is that it intertwines James's memories of Mary when she was alive and his journey through Silent Hill. Problem is that they kind of just shoved Mary's death in kind of in the middle of the movie. Is really out of place because it's not like James was visiting the location of where she died. The movie starts with the way that he met Mary, and then some storm happens, and then James is in a bar that he gets kicked out of, and there's a short moment where he talks to a woman on the phone, who I assume is his therapist. Ultimately, James decides that he needs to go back to Silent Hill for some reason. Yeah, there's literally no reason that James feels he needs to go back there. It's really unclear outside of looking for Mary. Even though she knows that he's dead. I think he knows that she's dead. So he gets out to the town of Silent Hill and he first meets this woman, I guess, who is in a graveyard moving bags of sand for some reason. Literally, James just walks up and all she says is grab a bag, but it was never made clear what is the purpose of the bags of sand. I suppose it's not that important, but I wanted to know. When he does get to town, the first thing he does is find a radio which prompts a guy to tell James the equivalent of something is coming. This is when shit happens, because we see some white, armless creatures that spit some kind of black acid from a hole in its chest. There's a siren sound, and then everything goes from normal Silent Hill to some kind of weird apocalypse shit. There's more of those armless creatures, as well hordes of some sort of weird bug creatures that I have no idea what they are. James eventually makes it to a building that happens to have another guy in it. They see a little girl named Laura. There's a moment where we get to meet Pyramid Head as it tries to grab James through the bars, but James just runs for it. But then when he moves, we see a body laying there and it turns into some sort of weird human spider thing with a backwards head. James runs and hides in a closet, so then Pyramid Head and the spider creature have the small fight. Pyramid Head does find James, but then the siren goes off again, and it hinders both of them? And then we just jump to the next scene. From here, James's goal is to get to the hospital, because that's where he thinks that Mary is. I'm pretty sure that this James goes to Rosewater Park, where there's some kind of maze, where James runs into a blonde woman that just decides to tag along with him. They eventually find the hospital, and there's a bunch of the stretchers on the road. And then inside they run into a woman that wants nothing to do with them, and she points a kitchen knife saying, "Leave me alone and don't touch me." At some point they go into this room full of like mechanical doll things that chase after them. Blonde woman gets hurt. James takes her to a room. He basically tries to seduce him, but he is not having it. She basically does that, though. He collects his flashlight, heads to the elevator with blonde woman insisting he should stop, but then she goes with him anyway. The two then wind up in another maze where James just decides that he's had enough of blonde lady and like summons Pyramid Head to kill her. I'm gonna be real. The end of this movie makes no sense and is really weird. He finds the hospital room in bed where Mary is, but then the place turns all apocalyptic again, and Mary is like floating as like a skinless person with 4 arms? She embraces James, but then we cut back to the beginning of the movie with James driving his car and meeting Mary for the first time, but he plays it like he's getting a do-over and meeting her again or something? I don't know. The end is so weird and confusing to me. Now, I want to start this part by saying that there are 2 things any movie based on anything needs to do, be it based on a video game, a book, a manga, or whatever. The first is that it should be able to convey the story of the source material to people who don't understand it, while the second is that the already existing fans are satisfied with the adaptation. As someone who knows literally nothing about Silent Hill, specifically Silent Hill 2, I really don't think that this movie does a good job conveying to me what the plot of Silent Hill 2 is about. I have seen people who have reviewed this movie say that, more or less, the movie just goes from notable set to another, and I do think that that's true. But as someone who doesn't know anything about Silent Hill 2, I have a lot of questions of what I have seen in this movie. Before James even gets to town, he runs into a woman in the graveyard that's moving bags of sand. Why? What did that represent? Is the graveyard is near water. Is it to stop flooding or something? When James comes up to the woman, all she says is grab a bag. Why? Does she assume that anyone that comes up to her is there to help? But by the end of that conversation with James, he tells him that if he doesn't find who he's looking for, he can always come back to her. Why? And why does she say it in like a little bit of a seductive way too? Why? Honestly, none of the other characters make a lick of sense at all. They just kind of appear, and that's it. There's the guy from the apartments where Pyramid first appears. I don't really get what his purpose in the movie was. He beat up James a bit, and then ran away. The blonde woman is the one that stuck around the longest, but she ends up just getting killed by Pyramid Head. There's the woman from the hospital that told James to stay away from her. Not really sure what her deal was, as she didn't really add anything to the story at all. Then there's Laura. We first find her hiding in the area where Pyramid Head first appears. Then she's just outside and is fine, but then runs to the park where James ends up meeting Blonde Woman. Then Laura gets all weird, showing off her creepy doll that looks creepy when James goes to the hospital. So realistically, Blonde Woman was the only important side character in terms of keeping this story going. Also, I'm not really sure what the point of Pyramid Head being in the movie was at all. He only appears twice. Each time he does, they focus more on showing that it's actually somehow James underneath the Pyramid Head, and I'm not really sure I understand why that is. Overall, as someone who knows nothing about the Silent Hill 2 game or the story of it, I still believe that Return to Silent Hill does a really poor job in conveying the story in a way that would make sense to someone without prior game knowledge. Most of the side characters serve no purpose at all, and it does feel like going from one well-known Silent Hill 2 location to another, just for the sake of it. The only positives is that the movie has some interesting camera work, and the score is really good, but that's because it's just reworked versions of the music from Silent Hill 2. Return to Silent Hill is an average movie that is at least entertaining to watch. Again, that is from the perspective of someone who knows nothing about the Silent Hill games, so maybe this movie does more for Silent Hill fans. I have no idea. But that's going to do this for this episode, so if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.